Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Dr. David Hooper, and I am so excited for today's episode of the Unstoppable Introvert Project. I can't believe we're getting through these episodes already. Session number 4, I think. 5? How many are we on? It's all good though. It's all good. And what? What's the matter? Sorry if you can hear that. Luna, we do not need your input right now. Come here. Come and say hi. Okay. She's like, Dad, you got to tell everybody how awesome they are. So yeah, I'm passing that on, guys. Luna says, let's go. She finally made an appearance. It was a dramatic one, but she's here now. Here she is. So that is Luna. If you're watching on YouTube, German Shepherd, 5.5 years old. Very lazy. Very, very lazy. You would think that German Shepherds need a lot of exercise. And they need some exercise, of course. But this German Shepherd does not need as much as other German Shepherds. Like I said a few weeks ago, Laura and I are training for a marathon, and it's Laura's first marathon. And because of how long it takes to train for a marathon, Luna comes with us. So we can't walk the dog and do all our training multiple times a day. So Luna comes with us, and we find that Luna just hates running. So we Googled, why does my dog hate running? And it turns out dogs are just like humans. Some like it, some don't. Some, want to lead you and enjoy it. Some just friggin' hate it. And we think Luna might be in that she friggin' hates it category. So she's doing all right though. I think she just needs to get used to it as well. So we'll see how that goes. But today, shifting perspective. It's like shifting Luna's perspective when she's running. Actually, Luna, you do like running. Shifting perspective is all I've thought about for the last few days. I've talked about reframing on other podcast episodes, and this by far is one of my favorite topics. So I'm so excited to get into this with you today. I've got a great quote to start us off though, and it's by Marcel Proust, who's a novelist. Hopefully I haven't butchered your name too much, Marcel. And it's, the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands, but in seeing with new eyes. And that is what reframing is. It's about seeing the same things, whether it's a certain circumstance, a certain situation, a certain personal issue, if you like, and seeing it through a new lens, new eyes, a new frame, a new perspective. And that's what we're talking about today. So the thing that we need to think about isn't the problem. So I know last time or a few weeks ago, we talked about problem solving. A lot of the time, the problem isn't the problem. It's actually the way we're perceiving that problem. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples where a problem for someone's a blessing for someone else. We have the ability to decide how we perceive these problems or challenges or obstacles. We can choose to look at these situations through different frames. And that's the thing I want you to start to reflect on today, because as introverts, a lot of the time we take things quite personally. We see things as maybe more challenging than extroverts in some circumstances. Maybe the way we interact in a team meeting. I much prefer virtual meetings because the barrier of the computer screen gives me the confidence to raise my hand, to contribute more, to comment in the chat. There's all of these different things. Whereas in a face-to-face meeting with lots of louder people or strong characters, you're fighting for the floor in a way. And I find that, contributing in larger team meetings quite a challenge. But it is exactly that. It's a challenge. So if I perceive that situation in a different way, if I change my perspective, I can see it as a way to build confidence and to grow my public speaking ability and to show that actually I have as much to contribute to this meeting than any of my extrovert kind of colleagues. So it's all about how you perceive the situations you're in. So keep that in the forefront of your mind as we progress in today's episode. So what exactly is reframing then? It's changing the meaning of the problem. So remember, the problem isn't the problem, it's the meaning we attach to it. It's only ever a problem depending on what that problem means to us. Couldn't say problem more there if I tried. It's all about how we perceive the problem. So an example I quite like is rain. So rain, if you're reading it in a textbook, when you're in, what would it have been, geography class at school, you'd be reading about it and you're like, yeah, rain's great. It feeds the crops, it waters the plants, that sort of stuff, fills up the lakes. Great. So rain in general isn't a problem. You never just are driving to work on a nice sunny day and thinking, oh God, rain's the worst. But if you are hosting a barbecue for 150 people outside with no indoor cover and it starts to horizontally rain on you, it becomes a problem. That's a problem. Suddenly all the guests are getting wet, the food's getting ruined, maybe people are leaving. It's a problem. However, if you're in a third world country and you don't have access to fresh drinking water or shops to go and buy groceries, and you need the rain to water your plants and to give your animals to drink, is a blessing. So it's all about the meaning in which we put on a problem. Another example, well, actually, imagine this. You've been to the shops, you've been and done a supermarket shop. It was quite busy, a bit annoying, lots of people in your way. You've driven home, but you don't live that close to your house. You don't have a drive. So you have to park about 20, 30 meters, carry the bags back to your house, basically. Imagine you've just pulled up, bags of shopping in the boot of the car, 50 yards to the house, and you look to your right, and you look out the windscreen, and you notice that the heavens have opened. It is lashing down on you, raining super, super hard. Now, you immediately associate rain with negative thoughts. It's going to be cold, it's going to be wet, it's going to be horrible. And you look at your partner and you think, why have we gone and done a food shop now when it's raining? So you're already getting annoyed. So you go, come on then, open the car door, immediately getting drenched. Go to the boot, open the boot, maybe a bag falls on the floor, you get splashed, maybe some of your purchases roll out onto the floor. Oh my goodness, it is a wreck. Anyway, you each take a few bags, you start to walk and move through the rainwater. Finally you get to your house, but you're drenched, your food's wet, you're pissed. You get in the house, maybe you struggle to find the key because you're rushing. You get in the house and you look at your partner and you say, why did you drag me out to the shops? It's absolutely raining, everything's ruined, I'm soaking wet, I'm pissed at you. And you storm off, you get yourself sorted, you spend the next couple of hours in a mood, you go to bed mad at each other perhaps, and it rolls on and rolls on. So really, just because it started to rain, it turns into this horrible, horrible experience. Now let's rewind. So rewind all the way back to the car. Okay, let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's imagine that, again, you've just pulled up into your house, so 50 yards away. You're looking out the window and it starts to lash it down. This time, you turn to your partner and smirk. You know what's coming. It's inevitable. You're gonna get wet. So you laugh, you giggle, you think, oh my goodness, what's the chances it was gonna rain? Never mind. Let's make the most of it. Let's get in the house as quick as possible. because we can dry off. So you open the door and it's pouring harder than you've ever seen rain before. And you look up and for a second you think, isn't this amazing? The nature at work, the world is being fed, it's growing. And you think to yourself, wow, you're part of that today. So anyway, you're standing, looking up, getting absolutely drenched. Go to the boot of the car, lift up the boot, maybe one or two things fall out. You quickly pop them in the bag, share the bags out, and now you're walking to the car. And you're laughing. You're spinning. Maybe if there's puddles, you jump in them. You put your arms out and you allow yourself to get absolutely soaked. You're laughing, you're dancing in the rain perhaps, you get to your door, you open the door, you get in the house, put your bags down, you fall into each other's arms, you're laughing, you're smiling, maybe you share a kiss, maybe you take a selfie, and suddenly you think, wow, what was that about? It's a positive experience. You know you're going to get dried and warmed anyway. Maybe you jump in the shower, maybe you just towel off. You pour a glass of wine, you sit and you laugh, you look at the selfie, maybe you post it on Instagram or on Facebook. And what that means is, next year, when your memories pop up on Facebook, you will be able to remember this experience again. And you'll have a laugh about it again and for future years. So, on one circumstance, the first couple saw rain as this dreadful thing, horrible thing that they were pissed at, they were mad at. The other person saw the rain as this amazing thing that, nature was involved. It doesn't happen very often, it was nobody's fault. And what that means is they can share a positive experience in it. A little bit of an example for you. Just see if you can try and shift perspective when you are going through these different things. One that is, a really nice example, I guess, is road rage. So road rage happens quite a lot. And something that I used to do as a younger kid, 18, 19, 20, would beat my horn, swear at people, shout at people if they cut me up, that sort of thing. And what I learned was actually, maybe that person's done that for a reason. So if somebody cuts you up, maybe they've had a terrible day at work and they just want to get home. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital because their partner's in labour. You never know what's going on with people. And when I realised that, I was able to see things like road rage, which is a problem, as actually an opportunity to show empathy and to think, okay, maybe you've done that because there's something going on in your life which you're not too happy about. And, I'm not injured, I'm fine. Is my ego bruised a little bit because you cut me up? Yes, but it's nothing I can't kind of deal with. So again, see what this means to your own life. Like I've mentioned a few times in this podcast, one of an introvert's superpowers is our ability to use empathy as a strength and understanding. And if you're able to apply that in all these different settings, one, you won't be as stressed, you won't get yourself riled up. Two, you might improve someone else's day as well. And, I don't know if you believe in karma or not, but what goes around comes around. So hopefully one day you'll get some good karma for you. Something I'll mention is the construction of a problem. How does a problem actually kind of happen? So there's two questions we need to think about when it comes to the event of what's bothering you. Firstly, what's happened? Okay? And the second one is what caused that problem? But let's think about what happened first. So that was the event. What has happened? The second part is the context. So what were the circumstances? Where was it? When did it happen? How long did it happen for? Who did it happen to? All those different kind of things to paint the picture, the context. And then finally, the meaning. What does all of that mean? So what has happened? What was the context? And what does that actually mean? So thinking about what has caused the problem. Was it you? Was it somebody else? Then think about the context, which frame you're going to see the problem through. More positive one, or is it more negative? And then lastly, think about the meaning that you're actually giving the problem, because you have the ability to choose what that meaning is. Is it a positive meaning or is it a more negative one? You have the ability to affect that. So remember, the event, what was it that happened and what caused the problem? Think about the circumstances, the context, the frame in which you're seeing problems through. And then lastly, what does it even mean? What is the meaning that you're giving the problem? It's all about the context, which changes the meaning. I'm sure some of you might have heard the serenity prayer before, but I think this is a good time to talk about it. And this is one of my favorite things. I've got a lot of favorite things, don't I? I think I've said that on every episode, that it's one of my favorite things. I love high performance shit. I think that's the easiest way to say this. I fucking love something that is going to help you become more unstoppable than you already are. In the serenity prayer, and it's not a religious thing, it is for some people, but you can see the practicalities of this no matter what your religion is. So this is the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Give me courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The main takeaway from that prayer for me is we cannot change some things. I see countless people who I won't name because it will be very obvious who they are, because I'll have named them, obviously, is focusing on the things we cannot change. And the main one is how other people think about things or you. So I have people in my life who kick off with their co-workers because of how they approach their life, which is absolutely insanity to think that you can affect someone else's choices in such a way instead of perfecting your own life. And they get very frustrated. This person goes into work, hears what this other person's done at the weekend, and then gets frustrated by whatever that person has done. It doesn't really matter what that person has done. It's more about what have you done? Have you lived your best life? Are you being the best version of yourself? So we can't change some things. Think about what's in your control. What's in your control that you can actually affect and impact today? Don't focus your energy on something that is outside of that control. Like I just mentioned, being frustrated by something that is so far outside of your zone just leads to frustration. And you then take that frustration into your life, in your friends and partners' lives, and it becomes a thing. So just have a little reflect right this second. What was the last thing that you got frustrated about? Was it in your control? Was it outside of your control? I'll give you an example from my life. So the last thing that I was getting frustrated with was that I was putting on body fat. So it was over Christmas and I was looking at the scales and it was going up and it was going up and it was going up just by, a couple of pounds, but I was really not wanting to put on weight. But my actions were that I was overeating. I wasn't tracking my calories. I'd been poorly, so I wasn't in the gym or running as much. So I was eating too much and storing body fat. It's simple science. So my frustrations were within my control. All I had to do was stop eating crap, count my calories again, get on the road, make a gym plan, and the weight came back off. Simple. And that's the frustration would evaporate because I could take major action. Now, I also have learned the hard way from watching how other people live their lives and getting frustrated by them, but I have no control over that. It's like seeing somebody who doesn't save a lot of money. So I know a few people who earn fairly good salaries, but they spend every single pound that they earn. They have no savings. They spend literally hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds every month on stuff they don't need. And I'm very frustrated by that, because I'm thinking, what about your future? Do you not want to buy a bigger house? Do you not want to save for your holiday or your future kids? But that is outside of my jurisdiction. I cannot affect what they do. If they are fully educated around money and they're adults and they're making the decisions to spend what they've earned, then that really has nothing to do with me. And getting frustrated by that is something that is a waste of my time and energy. And I need to focus on myself, because there's lots of things wrong here. There's lots of things I need to improve. I don't need to go looking for problems in other people's lives. I have a lot of things that I need to fix in my own life. I'm far from perfect. So once I've got all those sorted, maybe then you can have a little look. But for now, focus on being the best unstoppable version of yourself before you get bogged down with things outside of your control. So let's get into some of these reframes then, because like I say, I have a couple of examples here that hopefully are going to be useful when you need to reframe a situation. So let's imagine, this first one's called the context reframe. So this is for any parents out there, certainly. And imagine that you have a stubborn daughter. So the daughter being stubborn is the problem. Or do you have a daughter who is developing a strong mind of her own? So thinking about dealing with let's say a stubborn daughter, all you would do is bring to your attention why this problem is a good thing. Well, she's obviously developing a mind of her own. She's getting some stronger thoughts, and it might be time to give her some further responsibilities around the house. Then try and think about, in what situation would this not be a problem? Well, if, let's say, a guy asked her out on a date and she didn't want to go, she would be able to say, no, I'm not interested. If this was to occur at a different time, would that change anything? So imagine if your daughter was 10 years or 15 years older. Would that affect if you thought they were being stubborn, or if they were just a woman or a girl with a mind of their own? Perhaps they're in a business meeting trying to close a £100 million deal. They'd need to have a strong mindset then. What about if someone else was involved? Would that change anything? So this is a really interesting one, because you could even put yourself into that situation and think, if I was in my daughter's situation, would I think I was being stubborn, or would I be developing just my mind? And then lastly, if there was a different intention behind this situation, what would change? So always think about, is your daughter being stubborn, or does she have a mind of her own? Or is something else at play here? Is she upset about something? Has something changed? Has something happened? And when you start to put the context reframe on this situation, you move quite quickly from just a stubborn daughter to a lot more depth and detail around a potential positive or a potential issue that you might need to help with. The next one is the meaning reframe. And I've touched on it a little bit with the context reframe, but this is essentially, if you find somebody who maybe is being horrible to you, let's say a horrible boss, try and think about why that person is being horrible to you. So let's say a boss is picking on you at work. Is it because they're just a horrible person? Probably that's not very likely, especially if you've had a relationship with them in the past, professional relationship. The second thing is, could something else be going on in their lives? I've had experiences before where I thought I was getting picked on, but it turns out the manager I was working with had just found out his wife was having an affair. So, obviously a horrendous situation to find yourself in. And it wasn't that they were being horrible, they just didn't have the brain capacity to manage the team in the way that they needed to. So bring your attention to what the situation could mean. Is it as simple as this person's just being horrible to me? Probably not. What's the underlying meaning there? Try and then consider the differences around the meaning. So ask yourself, what could this behavior mean? Why are they acting like this? How could it even be positive or useful? Is this your opportunity to step up and to lead the team, develop that skill set, that leadership skill set? So that's the second one. Try and reframe it in terms of what this means, this situation means to that person and to yourself. Reframe number 3. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk loves this one. So if you haven't found, I'm sure you've heard of Gary V, but if not, he's called @GaryV, V-E-E. Absolute legend. And he's been asked a few times, how does he stay calm when he's running a multi-million pound business? He speaks on stages to thousands and thousands of people. How do you stay calm and not kind of worry about things? And he uses something called the gratitude reframe. This is the worst nightmare, in other words. So he says, are all of my family on a plane about to crash and die? Which is horrendous. And whoever's asked him says no. He says, well, I've got nothing to worry about then, do I? So he's grateful for the opportunity instead of worrying. Instead of focusing on what they're worried about, they bring their attention to everything that they're grateful for. Grateful for your family, grateful for the opportunity, grateful for the chance to prove yourself. And you can ask yourself questions to prompt that gratitude. So what couple of things are you most grateful for in your life? What could be happening that is so much worse than what is currently going on? And it's these types of questions that you can ask that will start to build up this feeling of, actually, I'm really grateful for the opportunity here. Things could be a lot worse. I could be in a much different environment or situation. Why are you grateful for this problem? I mean, if you're in that situation, you're worried about public speaking or if you're getting paid to public speak and it's a terrifying thing for you, you're grateful because these people are coming to listen to you. Something that I thought about a lot when I was preparing for my PhD Viva is this gratitude reframe. So basically when you do a PhD, it's a 100,000 word document, but then you get interviewed about it as well. So 2 experts from the field will ask you questions. And I was fucking terrified of that, because what my imposter syndrome and all that sort of stuff that I'll cover in future episodes. But the main thing I told myself was, there aren't many times where people kind of really take an interest in you personally. So although this is a terrifying thing, I was so grateful that the 2 supervisors, the 2 examiners, wanted to speak to me and hear from me and get my opinions on things. And suddenly that became quite an exciting thought to think, oh, actually, we could have a really good chat about a topic I'm really interested in. That sounds great. So you can reframe these things and almost use them to your advantage. So that's a really powerful one. And then the last one, reframe number 4, is the other people reframe. And again, this is one of my favorites because I use this every day. The other people reframe. Think of your hero and then just ask yourself a question, what would they do? So consider someone maybe you trust or you admire. Maybe it's a movie star, maybe it's an athlete, maybe it's a superhero from a fictional movie. What advice would they give you? How might they say something? How would their mind be working? Whether it's a mentor, maybe a comedian, maybe it's you in 10 years' time. You could change your identity. It's looking through problems in different perspectives. So the one I always use, so I've got a few people who I really admire. The first one is Dwayne Johnson. I just happen to have Project Rock on today. And whenever I don't want to get up early on a morning, whenever I don't want to work out, I always think, what would Dwayne Johnson be doing right now? And he would be up, he'd be in the iron paradise, getting after it. working on himself, becoming, the best version of himself. And I think, well, if Dwayne Johnson can get in the gym, I can get in the gym as well. So that's the first one. The second one, I've mentioned him already, Gary Vaynerchuk, someone I respect and look up to. I've got a lot of time for him as well. I always think, what would he do? He is ruthless when it comes to business in terms of the hours he puts in, the work rate, things I absolutely love about people, the work ethic, the mindset stuff, but also he's got the empathy and the understanding. He's very much an extrovert, but he does value the kind of introverted skill set, I would say, as well. And again, when it comes to things like this podcast, I think, what would Gary Vaynerchuk be saying to me right now? Or what would they do in this situation? They would get that podcast up. They would get it chopped, get it on social media. I have people to help and people to impact in a positive way. That's the other people reframe. So think about someone you admire. Think about your hero, if you have one, or someone who you work with, who you look up to, and think, right, what would they do in this situation? You look at the problems through different perspectives from all of these different reframes, but it is something that will help relieve stress and pressure, frustration. Because remember, if you change your perspective, you will change your life. You'll have better relationships. You'll feel better about yourself. When your partner pisses you off because it's bloody raining outside and she's dragged you to do a food shop, you will change your perspective to thinking, actually, this doesn't happen very often. She didn't mean to do that. Let's get her shopping inside and have a laugh about it. And that saves you a couple of hours of arguing, and it swaps in having a lovely evening laughing about being caught in the rain. And accept the things that you cannot change. We have this awful habit, we in general, of focusing on things outside of our control, which is a real challenge. When you realize you can only affect things in your control, life becomes a lot easier. So accept the things you can't change, but also have the courage to change the things that you can change. Make that change, do that workout, have that meditation session, start journaling, start working out, get in the ice bath. Whatever it is to make you a bit more positive is only going to be a really positive thing. And then finally, have the wisdom to know the difference. What's in your control and what isn't. Remember, thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, and actions create results. And that's why we're all here. We are all unstoppable introverts. We are all working towards becoming higher achieving, higher performing, incredible people who absolutely crush it day in, day out, and we allow our introversion to be the driver of that at all times. And like I've mentioned before, my challenges were that I was redundant, morbidly obese, and I was medicated for depression. So if I were you, I would be thinking about my challenges, and I would be looking at them through a different perspective. For my redundancy, it was an opportunity to go and build a business. For my morbid obesity, it was an opportunity to get in the best shape of my life, take up running, feel great about myself. And then for my depression, it was an opportunity to get off medication and find out what made me truly happy. And I am so fortunate to have been able to do that. So, and that wouldn't have been possible without reframing. So, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I can't believe we've just crushed another one. We got it in the bank. And I hope that you are loving being part of this tribe. The Unstoppable Introvert Project is rolling on, and we are picking up every high-performing or ambitious introvert in our path. Please like and share this podcast. Share it with anyone who might be interested. And of course, follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. David Hooper for all of my updates. Hopefully I'm going to be able to share some free resources with you really soon and get you as much support as possible when it comes to changing your life, chasing your dreams, achieving your goals. So I'll finish with what I always like to kind of say. Being an introvert is not the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will propel you forward and launch you into achieving your dreams. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll speak to you soon.